Right, blessings everybody. I thought I'd do a short video just to explain, now that we're at the precipice of ET disclosure, what some of the reactions could be, not necessarily, but potentially could be, and how we as light workers can hold that energy of peace and love and stability and groundedness. So first of all, we've kind of made a tacit and sometimes overt agreement as a culture to not speak of extraterrestrials. It has been seen in social circles as unacceptable. It's not respectable to think about it, to speak about it, and it's certainly not safe to speak about it. If you do, you get ostracized, ridiculed, mocked, dismissed, and ultimately results in that feeling of not belonging, which in our DNA is a deeply ingrained need, I think, because we used to be tribal. We still are in many respects, but we used to be tribal, and so to not belong would be essentially to die, to not be able to survive. And so we police each other, and we've made this tacit agreement we can't talk about the fact that we're not alone. To me and to you, it's probably like talking about there's people that live in Kansas and I live in Colorado, or people living in Australia. It's very normal and common sense to think this vast universe has life. But we've made these agreements, and so now we're suddenly on the verge of it's okay. It's okay to talk about these things. And we're not going to be censoring each other as it starts to become mainstream and people aren't mocking and laughing at it and calling people crazy. And so as it becomes more and more mainstream, and there's wave after wave after wave of disclosure and documents and footage and photos and announcements and insiders and experts and commentary and political leaders and religious leaders and scientists and all these people coming forward, either confirming or disconfirming, it's going to be a hot topic, and probably the most important topic for many of us in our whole lives. Now, the two reactions, of course, are the polarities we see in all of life, which is love and fear. The fear will be, let's defend our old worldview and dig our heels in and resist. Another one could be, well, we abandon all worldviews and we're just confused. Another one is that we, because of our anxiety, we accept whatever the loudest voice is, or the most forceful version of reality. And fourth, we're just totally bitter and we believe everything's lies now. It's all BS because we were lied to for so long and we can't trust anything. Now, that's the personal reaction. Now, the institutional reactions, of course, again, are on that love and fear polarity. Religion, maybe we adapt. Maybe we say, okay, the universe is larger than we thought, and perhaps a huge evolution might be, well, maybe these beings represent a state of consciousness, a divine consciousness, a Christ or a Krishna consciousness that exists within all of us. And therefore, the man Jesus was really embodying a consciousness, and that lives in everything. That's a very big advancement, but perhaps there can be some adaptation or humility or love or openness. The fear response would be, no, there is no new reality, or if there is, they're just demons. And certainly not all ETs are positive, but the channeled sources, all the insiders tell us that the majority are, like 94%, somewhere around there, 93, 94. Science may say, no, that doesn't fit our model, or maybe we can make new models. Politics says, well, gosh, if we lied to you all and didn't tell you the truth, how are we still legitimate? So maybe new political leaders will come up, or the old ones will say it was for your security or something like that. But I don't think it's really going to work. People are going to demand answers there. Now, as the wave after wave of disclosures come out, we kind of feel this sense of collective grief, and we'll go through the 5 stages, of course, of denial at first, and then anger, why weren't we told, bargaining. Well, maybe some of it's true, maybe some of it's not, maybe it's inaccurate. And all of that, of course, has some merit. There probably will be sabotage, and there will be hijacking, and there will be half-truths and quarter-truths and eighth-truths. Some of it will be manipulated and doctored, and much of it will be true. So we can talk more about that, but we need disciplined discernment from a place of openness in our heart, openness in our mind, groundedness, humility, kindness, and love. So we're going to go through this grief process, and we're going to really have to practice Jesus' teachings in this regard, because we've denied ourselves the ability to speak, the willingness to speak. We've suppressed and denied others, many of us. Many of us have ridiculed and mocked other people around us that tried to speak of these things or make them normal, bring them into normal conversation. And we have to forgive ourselves for our rigid worldviews, that we thought this was the absolute way of things. Now, at first there will be some people that say, yeah, we always knew. And maybe they did. Maybe they were born with that knowledge. I feel like I kind of had that knowledge, and that's okay. There's no judgment. Just that's who I am. Maybe other people as well. But I think because of the fear, there will be committees to slow it down, slow the process down so it doesn't overwhelm people. But there's a danger there to get stuck in the committees and bureaucracy. Many people will respond with fear at an institutional level. Let's bulk up our military and protect against this potential threat. That's coming from a place of fear. Many conservative religious people may say this is the Savior coming. They may get very tight in their viewpoint. Some may revert to tribalism and say, my political party was right, or my group was right, yours was wrong. And that polarization of we were right all along, or we're outraged that no one told us. The economy may shift in terms of, should I hoard my money and be afraid? Should I refrain from investing? Should I sell my investments and buy gold? What's the risk assessment here? High risk now because we have disclosure. Should I trust institutions anymore? Should I move my investments? Should we boost again our defense spending or our space innovation? So the market may shake a little. I don't think it's going to shake as much as some people say. I'm a little more optimistic there. Then, of course, a lot of blame, which some of the blame is justified. I mean, the governments and many of the religious institutions knew about this, and they did not share it. Many of the scientific institutions knew and did not share it. And people will also blame the ETs. Why didn't you come earlier? So most of those are fear responses. I think all those are fear responses. And then one that is kind of justified is, how do we know it's true? Let's diligently discern. Let's be disciplined. Let's collect data. Let's verify. And let's recognize main ideas and patterns. And that's really what I'd invite us into, is looking towards the main ideas rather than information overload. And so there will be a lot of credibility warfare in terms of, that's not a real video, that's not a real photo. And again, like I say, many may be thrown in there to throw a monkey wrench in all this. A cabal still hanging on to power, trying to manipulate and deceive. That's that Luciferian influence I've mentioned, the trickery. So we still will need to use our discernment and to be practical and grounded. But eventually this stuff will start to sink in. After wave comes, it will become more common knowledge, more publicly discussed. And the real disclosure will be, of course, in our own families and communities and friends, around dinner tables, on walks. And that's where we really get to meet with small groups and really open the space from our hearts, finally, in love, to really discuss and to explore these very important topics. Or this important topic, I should say. So there will be mistakes. New things will come out and say, oops, that video or that statement, that wasn't correct. It's okay. You can't step into an entirely new era uh, of expanded consciousness and love and knowledge and not make some mistakes. We try not to, but there will be redactions, and we don't need to get on our high horse and blame or attack or criticize. We just move forward. Hopefully there won't be too much manipulation. But then as light workers, we really have the opportunity, as I mentioned, to be centered in love, to be calm, to be grounded, to be practical, to take care of our own bodies, to get enough rest and enough water and sunshine and exercise and good food, to take care of our families, to be present with them, to listen to their concerns, and to hold that loving, kind, open space for them, and to really just do the practical self-care, continue to meditate, continue to get good rest. We'll need that during this time. I think I already mentioned that. And to stay grounded and to slow down a little bit. Because, when something this big comes out, everybody gets emotionally charged and they can go really fast. And then the mind itself is less open and less clear and less discerning and less connected with spirit, because we're in our emotional part of our brain. We're in that part. And so we really have to slow down and take a breath, know that it's going to be okay, and stay aligned with our true nature, stay aligned with God in this process. And in that space, to not try to expose ourselves to endless commentary, and to really limit our inputs, in a sense, to just the ones that we're called to look into. It'll be hard because all of this information will be exploding in the media, but I really emphasize quality over quantity. That's much more important. And again, staying aligned with God so that we can discern what is really true rather than what's 25% true. And so we really want to be non-reactive, non-fearful. We want to continue to be discerning, not pulled into reactivity or outrage, not brought into a sense of superiority or despair. Just to hold that loving, open, curious space and learn and practice that ability to be in the question without having to have the answer right in front of our face that second. We can be with the anxiety that is all around us in the collective and hold that, anchor that loving space within us. And that's really what we're here to do, and this is a big time of really shifting from, or graduating from, or ascending from, I don't know if those words are the best, I kind of like graduating into greater maturity, greater adulthood, where we no longer have to gather our information from the institutions around us, whether that's religious, political, scientific, even through our work or our education, but rather from our inner communion with the divine. That's where we learn to listen the deepest. It's not that we can't listen to those institutions, just that we don't base our entire reality and worldview on what they say. And so it's a graduating from that, limiting ourselves to just the external validation, to starting to trust our inner connection with God, trust our connection with the divine, and trust our direct experience. And so this is what I would always teach, is how to have that direct experience. Like Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within, but you know it not. So and when we do that, we no longer can be tricked as easily. And we're no longer so disappointed when someone out here politically, religiously, scientifically tells us the wrong thing, because we're not basing our version of reality and ultimate truth on the words of the American Medical Association or a scientific community or the Catholic Church or whatever it happens to be. We're not basing our whole reality on what they're telling us, or a political leader or political party. We're basing it on our inner connection with God. And therefore we're less easily duped and tricked and lied to. And we have a clearer sense of discernment and a calmer mind, a more open heart, a more curious outlook on life, less of a tendency to want to cling to something that is told to us very quickly, and more of an ability to sit in the question without needing to fully know the answer. I mean, those of you who are spiritual have been doing this your whole life, and to draw in many sources from both within and around you, and to gradually, ever so gradually, recognize main ideas and main patterns that emerge. And even when you come to conclusions, to not hold those too tightly, but to allow those to evolve and transform and develop over time as you come to new conclusions. This is all just the spiritual path. There's a scientific method. This is the spiritual method of gathering truth, allowing yourself to remain open and flexible and humble, and basing the majority of your reality on what you're being given from Source, from the divine within. And then looking to the outer solutions to confirm or disconfirm, or to support or detract from, and constantly being in a state of reshaping and remodeling, reforming, transforming yourself constantly. So the grief and all that comes from really placing our power outside of ourselves in all of these people and institutions, and then them not telling us or being disappointed with them, and not really discerning what's true inside. Because if we really all lived that way, we would have understood this long ago, and it wouldn't be socially taboo, and people wouldn't call you crazy and wouldn't dismiss and ridicule. And so all of these fear-based reactions are really a result of not knowing how to center within ourselves and get our information from what I call the cosmic internet, directly from Source. That's the real key, and that's the real development, I think, that we're moving into through this process of disclosure. That's the real maturation, that's the real evolution, and that's the real growing edge. That's the opportunity that we have to realize who we are now in the midst of this new reality, this new information that we're not alone in the universe. And again, none of this has ever been outside of us. The ancient cultures, this is not new. The indigenous cultures of our planet knew that they came from the stars, and they had visitors from the stars, and that there was an ongoing relationship, and that much of their information and wisdom came from their ancestors that were not of earthly origin. So it's really, in a sense, it's just disclosure to some individuals, but most of the ancient traditions understood this. Why? Because, again, they were connected with Source within. They knew how to draw upon that. Therefore, they had that openness and that love. Therefore, the external validation came, as I said, and you start within and it's validated around. In this case, the outside, and in this case, the external validation was probably the appearance of extraterrestrials to their tribe or to their local group of tribes. So we're opening that doorway to greater maturity as a civilization, and it's high time. We've policed each other enough, we've ostracized each other enough, we've called each other crazy enough. Now it's time to recognize that people live in Kansas or Australia. In this case, I'm using that analogy, but that people live in our solar system and in other solar systems around us. And to join that larger community, and eventually to realize we're related. We share DNA, we share spiritual connections, we share wisdom. Many of them look just like us, many of them are very different, but ultimately we're all part of this one family. So it's part of our growing up and maturing is to reconnect with our family, instead of forever denying it and repressing it, suppressing it. So that's where we are, and that's kind of some of the reactions that may occur, and we're off to a beautiful new chapter in our civilization's history. Okay, sending y'all love. Hope that was helpful, just as reminders of who we can be, how we can be love during the disclosures ahead. Peace.